Apologies.
Turn off on mobile, please. I forgot to ask you. Thank you.
Just, it's been reported to me that some members of the public and indeed members of family difficult to hear.
Okay.
So apologies from Alpha Collins, who's in this other business, and Councillor Bradford Cars, who's abroad.
Thank you very much, you. Number 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Okay, received declarations of interest from councillors on items on the agenda. Received written requests for dispensations for declarable interest, and grant any requests for dispensation as appropriate. Do anybody? Okay, thank you very much. Minutes. Richard, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just at the last meeting, we said that they would nominate a new member to take over the position on the Elstree and Bournemouth Twin Town Association. We left it at that meeting with Councillor Michelle Vince, but to amend the minutes, we would like that now to be changed to myself, Councillor Richard Butler, and remove Councillor Michelle Vince with the agreement of council. With the agreement of council.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So do you agree?
Agree.
Agree.
Do I need to mention about entertainment at this stage?
I know what you're referring to, Councillor Stratton. I don't believe you do, because that was cleared up at the entertainment meeting and preceded this meeting. But to summarise what that change was, for clarity, it was replacing Councillor Lawrence with Councillor Turner and Councillor Turner to be the vice chair, so Councillor N.
Okay, thank you. Minutes. To approve and adopt the minutes of the annual council meeting held on 11th of May 2022. Thank you. Community Infrastructure Levy, SIL, to consider and approve as appropriate recommendations from Environmental Planning Committee in relation to use of top sliced Town Council SIL expenditure, current balance excluding earmarked projects or committed expenditure of 169.53.25. The scheme, it's improvement of car park and visitors access in Arsenal Ladies TV area. Amount sought £125,000 from Boreham Wood Football Club, to be considered by full council on the 15th of June this evening, 2022, with recommendations for approval on condition Hartlepool Borough Council award the full element sought by the football club from that authority, £150,000. Do I have?
I would like to propose that, Madam Chair. The Boreham Football Club do an awful lot in the town, and they've had a very successful year. And the additional thing that's happened this year is the Arsenal ladies matches generally been televised, so why I assume the ladies TV area is required. And I think they do a very good job, and we should continue to support them. So I propose a motion to accept.
Well, I second it, it looks like there's someone else. What I would like to say, even if I don't second it, is that they did put up for the town what needed to be done at a time when we felt very, very low. Our morale was low, and they brought the town together across many groups, across many ages, and they made us all proud. How many people watched that on TV? Oh, it's incredible.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Newmark.
Thank you, Chair. I was keen to second it. I think it's important that this decision, which is a fairly large item of expenditure, is actually backed on a cross-party basis. And I absolutely endorse what's been said already. But I know that not necessarily all members here, and certainly from social media where there's been some debate on this, not everybody thinks that we should spend this amount of public funds just because of the sort of very clear social benefit it brings. So I wanted to place on record the fact that there is also a very clear public interest argument in the council supporting this, in that the site upon which the stadium and the football ground exists is a publicly owned site. And actually, by investing £125,000 of public money together with £150,000 from the borough and the balance of around another 800k being met by the football club itself. We're effectively delivering around £1 million of extra value to a public site by spending only £125,000 of public money. You know, if you compare that to the sort of fraction of 1% interest that we get from our investment funds, and whatever you think about football, whatever you think about the football club, there's also a very clear public benefit argument as well. I just wanted to set that out.
Thank you very much, Councillor Newmark. Did Councillor Strapp second the Commissioner, or you go?
I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Yes, could you do that? Yes,
Yeah, second it.
okay, thank you. Go on, those next. Vote. Can we go to the vote? Yes, sorry. Right, can we go to a vote, please? All those in favour of giving this £125,000 to Borewood Football Club, please? I'm sorry, my voice is so loud. I don't want the walk out.
I can't hear you.
You can't?
No.
Okay, well now, okay. Who votes for giving the £125,000?
Seems unanimous.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, yes, that, well, I did read it out here, did I not? No. Okay, we have a proviso on this, giving this money, that if, only if, Herts and Hill Borough Council give their amount of money. This would make them do this. Is that okay, everyone?
I don't think it's fair to the football club. What do they?
Sorry, sir.
We've decided to give it to them. Why should we wait for another authority? We have the money, so let's give it to them. We don't need to wait for the borough.
Well,
So
because that's
pay them back.
what we voted for, we actually voted for that. That was, sorry? And then we've just done the vote anyway. But we did, that's what happened at AUP, and that's why we brought it forward. So thank you very much for that.
With your approval, Madam Mayor, if it's appropriate to do so, we can always bring back to council or EMP if for any reason Borough Council choose not to provide the record.
Yeah, that's
And then decide at that time whether the town council wants to go in its own way anyway.
Okay, but for the time being.
For the time being,
yes,
it's
okay,
approved.
thank you very much.
The next item, Madam Mayor, that if I just may add, members will have seen an email in good time from me. Apologies, we've had some technical difficulties upstairs, after printing out some documents. Not only the internal audits that we have before you, but also the AGAR, the annual return, which we need to submit to the external auditors before the very end of this month. But the numbers haven't changed at all in any shape or form and have been approved by the internal auditors. So I'm hoping that should be a straightforward matter for you.
Okay, number 6 on the agenda, outside bodies, to receive written reports from members serving on outside bodies at the time of the agenda distribution. There are none.
That's correct, Madam Mayor, and however today, and I've both forwarded the emails from the various members who provided the reports and tabled copies before you. Without searching through my papers from memory, they include MENCAP, the Oldham Country Park, and was there one other museum group.
Right, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
So thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question on the Oldham Country Park, and thank you for the written report. I saw, and I want to know how true it is, that there was talk that a sailing club may reappear at the country park or the lake. I wonder if Councillor Strapp might be able to give us any idea if that's actually something that's false or true, please.
It is completely true. When we have our advisory meeting, we do have representatives from the sailing club. Should there be an opportunity for them to return, they would welcome that to be given that chance. I mean, the longer it takes to settle this issue, of course, it makes it it may be that that can't happen. And in fact, so that is completely true. But there's something in there which I needed to ask Councillor Newmark. I don't know how far the investigation has gone into compulsory purchase or how the cross-party, the working party or on the reservoir is proceeding at the borough. So there may or may not be any development there, but I don't know anything about it.
Are you happy for me to answer that? Yeah. So the position is that that there are effectively two tracks now. There is the legal track whereby the borough council's solicitors, in consultation with external barristers, are examining the possibility of a compulsory purchase order, or at least the legal possibility of it. That is a fairly complex process. It is taking some time. Frankly, it's taking more time than I had hoped it was, but I am assured that it is underway and we should see some results shortly. In parallel with that, as a consequence of the cross-party motion and working group that was set up, there have been some meetings with representatives of the owners, representatives of the family of the owners. What's happened is that the older generation have actually sort of passed the baton onto the daughters, and in one case the niece, and there's been some really constructive discussions with them. I think, without breaching any confidences, I would say that they have a very different attitude towards the community legacy for the area. They're people that ultimately stand to inherit this asset if it remains in the family, and they are very open-minded as to what that legacy should look like. There has been a conversation about the possibility of some form of community-focused development on the part of the land that backs onto Centennial Park. That would include retail, community hub, and some commercial income generating opportunity. Effectively enabling them to make the financial argument for putting the reservoir back into community use. Obviously, it's been stressed very clearly from the perspective of the Borough Council and the planning officers and the members that there isn't a situation whereby there can be a straight exchange. They have to go through the planning process. But I think that the individuals who are now negotiating for the family have a greater sensitivity and understanding of the way the planning process works and the fact that they can't use the reservoir as leverage within that. So, look, it's early stages, and as you know, because you've been through all of this before, there's every possibility that may not transpire, which is why it's important that the compulsory purchase order exploration track remains in place. But I also think it's because of that we've seen some movement on the side of the family. So, yes, things are happening. Yes, it does seem to be a new atmosphere of cooperation, but I think there's some way to go yet before the adoption bears fruit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Newmark. We have been in
We have been in this position, and it all comes. We're thinking that it's all going to work, and then it disappears, unfortunately. But maybe this won't. So we've got to be positive, I think. Thank you, Councillor Strand.
And that, 7 on the agenda now, model standing orders, April 2022. To consider adopting modifications to standing orders in null model, in brackets, April 2022, appendix 7, in brackets 1, into current town council documents, appendix 7, in brackets 2.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I was proposing that members go through both documents on a line-by-line basis at this meeting, with us being here. forever. One of the questions that I did say to HAPTC to pass on to NAP was that when NAP brings out amendments, it would be helpful if they could identify precisely what those amendments are. For those of us who have veered slightly away from the model, it makes it very hard then to retrace to know exactly which one you're looking at, to know which changes to incorporate. As far as I can tell, the substantive change, and we have clauses in our own standing orders that are peculiar to us, such as about the leader of the council and and most recently the gender neutral wording. As far as I can tell, it appears to me, and I suspect that it would be the case, that the main changes relate to the financial side of council's requirements on procurement, and it fleshes out in more detail in the new model about what councils have to do where they're looking for public to comply with the public contracts regulations in terms of advertising on websites and so on. Because it goes into much more detail, as far as I can tell, in the new model. That in it by itself shouldn't be too difficult for me to incorporate into the standing orders. But I want to also make sure that there are no other changes which are perhaps I haven't been able to identify yet. As I said, I have asked HAPTC for some help there. What I propose that you might wish to think to do is to agree in principle the spirit of the changes of the new standing orders, and I will bring one document to the next GMC meeting for you to approve incorporating those changes as far as I can. Does that seem satisfactory to you?
Jeremy?
Yeah, I did an electronic comparison of not our standing orders and the NOUT model, but the current NOUT model and the new NOUT model. The only changes seem to be in section 18 relating to financial regulations and all about tendering their improvements. So I did just want to suggest that whatever recommendation this evening, we don't lose the progress we made a couple of meetings ago in terms of ensuring that all of our governance documents include gender neutral issues.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak? No. Thank you.
Well, yes, given that's the case, I wish I knew how to compare the documents in that way. What I'll do is simply make those changes up to the financial section.
Okay.
I don't think there's nothing there which is hugely problematic.
Okay, thank you very much. Accounts for payment, to confirm the payments of accounts is approved as follows. You going to rather read this out now? I wouldn't imagine, but perhaps ask members if they have any queries or anything. Okay.
I did notify the clerk that we had one query in regards to the meeting. It related to voucher, I think it was 29 cost payment FP, which was payment for 2 member tickets to Macmillan Cancer Research Gala Dinner. I understand that this was to pay for tickets to an evening event for a past mayor and their spouse. I'm not getting into names, and we felt this was slightly odd. If a member is attending a charity event, then be they a mayor or a former mayor, they have a council allowance from which those tickets can be purchased. If a charity wants the mayor or a past mayor to be present to represent the council, then normally they would give them a complimentary ticket. Obviously, it's a great cause. We want to take away from Macmillan Cancer Research at all, but I think that once we start paying for tickets to gala events, we start to get into problematic territory as a council. We have a grants process for supporting charities, and that should be the way through which we transfer funds to charities, not by paying for tickets for members to attend events. Sure, members should attend the events, encourage them to, but they should buy their own tickets. And if the charity wants financial support from us, then they should apply for a grant.
So, just to be clear, you're saying
councillor Mark, that you say that the mayor shouldn't get it. I'm not.
Yeah, sorry, Madam Mayor, I think I'm happy to try and explain. As we all know, the mayor has an allowance, quite a substantial allowance for the role of our civic mayor in terms of the town council. That money has just been increased by the agreement of this authority as well. So we feel as though members who are mayor, yes, it's one thing to recoup funds when travelling to our twin town, which we fully support that. But even then, when you're in that civic role, when you're on, actually on site and spending, that should come out of your own pocket because you have that allowance as that civic role throughout that year, which is quite a substantial amount, as we've seen from other authorities and how much those town councillors get paid, because that's nothing. We're one of the only town councils in the whole of Hertfordshire that actually pays an allowance to our members. So, but a mayor being invited to something, that mayor is there as a civic role. They shouldn't be paying to go because they've been invited. Technically, they're working for this authority. However, if there's raffle tickets, that obviously the mayor should be buying raffle tickets through the money that's allocated. Obviously, that's up to individual mayors, because that mayor might have a personal choice of which charities to support and not to support. I mean, I'm sure everyone around this table has given to some form of charity or another, and sometimes you choose which charities to give to on one year, and maybe the next year you might not. But we feel as though we shouldn't be supporting a mayor, paying for them to attend something they've been invited to. If they've been invited to it, they should have been there free of charge, or if they want to go, they should pay out their own allowance. Thank you.
You talk about any councillor now?
Any council, including
Except the mayor.
no, including the mayor, in the terms
If
that
they're invited to something,
if they're invited to something, they should be there as a gift.
okay, but if they choose to go,
If they choose to go and they've been told that they need to pay, they should pay. I mean, when I was there, I was invited, funnily enough, to this very hall to watch. I can't believe it. It was a theatre group. I can't remember the name of it. So long ago now. And I was tasked to pay to enter our own hall, which they were having free of charge. So work that out. But I paid because I thought, hang on, as the mayor, I had an allowance. I think at the time it was £800 or £900, and I thought, fair enough, that's part of the job. So I paid it out of that.
that's not what it's there for.
Exactly. So why should we subsidise this mayor when that mayor, it doesn't seem right to me.
Thank you very much, Richard. Simon wanted to speak.
I just want to say that I think.
Could you put your mic on?
Yeah, it is on. I just want to say I think that Councillor Newmark and Councillor are right. My time as mayor, I've laid out a lot of money for raffle tickets and things like that. It's part of my job. I'm sure you do, Sandra.
Exactly.
I think this is right. That if a mayor's being invited to a charity event, then clearly there should be a free invitation, and the standard individual mayor allows you to do donation to them in particular. But it's going to be discovered. Yeah, but I think that I agree. I don't think that we as a town council should be paying entrance fees for events on behalf of mayors. And I think that should be added to the protocol we've got to the mayor. So he or she, because look, quite frankly, I don't know who it was, but they probably didn't know, and they thought, well, maybe they were told when you claim the money, and they did. So I think we just need clarity on the rules regarding entry, going to events, representatives.
Thank you very much. Victor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think all this discussion is about me.
Thank you.
I can remember getting an email from Jenny to say that the Macmillan they had in their annual charity event, and that they've been inviting this council and nobody has agreed to go to that place. And she has spoken to and the mayor.
I wasn't available.
Yeah, the mayor was available, neither was the deputy mayor. Am I available for that day? I said, if you to represent the council, I'm available. So she came back with a ticket that is £35 each. So I said, I'm not going if it means I'm going to pay for myself to represent the council. I'm no more the mayor, neither am I the deputy mayor. I'm just setting the council out.
Oh,
as a partner employed there. So she said, okay, she come back to me. And she came back to me and said, if I'm still available, the council will pay for the tickets. I said, as I said before, I'm free that evening. So that's what's happened. And it didn't cost me £20 to buy a raffle, and I didn't get it. So what I'm saying is this, it was outside London, and I have a car that is a Ule's car, that is not Ule's qualified or something like that. So what I'm saying is, I wouldn't have gone if I'm to pay £35 for myself and my wife. So that is how it came about. If it's local here, I would have attended. If the ticket was free, I would have attended. And as a mayor, I attended several events too. I paid out of my pocket. How much was it then? I spent more than 1,000 compared to what was given as a mayor. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not that it's backtrack something. And the way it's presented, I don't think I like it, but it's good that we weigh it and going forward, we see what we can do about it. Thank you.
Sorry.
So through you, Madam Mayor, the protocol will now be amended so that all members, if they're required to, if obviously members or mayors or deputy mayors are invited for free to events, it's not applicable. But otherwise, if there is a fee, that whoever's going, whether they're mayor, deputy mayor, or a past mayor, or any member, they pay for the entry fee from their personal allowance.
No problem, I did that on Saturday.
That's
I did, I paid for my friend. Thank you very much, Victor, thank you, Michelle.
Well, I think it was all covered, so I was getting a bit confused. Well, who was going where and
That's what I'm saying.
and I think so. My understanding is now that the mayor would generally go free, but then make a donation. But if someone's going to go in the mayor's place and it's not the deputy mayor, then they need to be paying for themselves. We can't pay for tickets for people to go to events. That's it, isn't it? Across the board, everybody. Everybody. And then it has to go on our declarations of interest. That's the case, isn't it? We've got something like that.
Why would it do that?
Well, this should be paid for by the town, because on this one, sorry. So not in the future, but on this one, Victor would have put it on his declaration of interest. That's right, isn't it? That's anything that's been paid for.
No. It's up to each person.
So you can have something paid for by the council, but
You
you
have a
don't.
mayor or the deputy mayor or a past mayor, because they're filling the role, aren't they? They're filling the role. So,
we have sorry, Councillor Vince is right in the sense that, in fact, Councillor Butchins asked me for one recently, we have a protocol for gifts and hospitality, and on the back of that is a short form,
Yeah.
which members fill out, and then that gets on the website to get the interest form. So it's up to members to get to decide whether they ought to do that, but the protocol should be crystal clear, and if it isn't, then we need to change it. So,
That is confusing, saying that is it gift from outside body, or when they got the council send you, or you're representing the council, they pay for it, money didn't touch your hand. And that was, if it's gift from outside body, if I've gone there, they gave me a bottle of champagne. Okay, if it's up to £50, I'll be clear. But on this occasion, as I said, I've spent £20 buying the raffle there and all that. So I don't see why I should declare this. It's not a gift from outside body.
Madam Mayor, can I so just jump in? Don't think we're having a go at it, because we're actually not. What this has done is just highlight something in the sense that anyone can trip on this, regardless of which party or who it is around this table. We just feel as though, we need to do things properly, regardless of who it is, and it's just highlighted something in terms of, if you were invited to represent this authority, you shouldn't be paying in the first place. And it really is up to the authority. If you wanted to go, then it's up to you to then pay for it out of the allowance that you get as a councillor. Rather than, you see where I'm coming from? I mean, I think people are getting a bit confused, aren't they? There's someone else up there.
So I think my understanding of this is, if we're in a scenario where the mayor's requested to attend something, the mayor is unable to attend, and the deputy mayor is unable to attend, so instead a past mayor is sent in their place, they should be held in the same esteem that the mayor is, therefore they should not, the council or that individual should not be expected to pay for that ticket out of respect to the position of the mayor and the past mayor. Therefore, I think the position that the council that you're referring to within this was that it was actually quite a difficult one, because the expense was put on the authority when actually, whilst it's not saying that we don't want to give that money to the charity, the mayor, the past mayor, the deputy mayor, whoever was there, would have given to that charity out their own pockets, but there shouldn't have been a position whereby the authority or that person is expected to pay the ticket if they were then representing the role. In another scenario where perhaps we just, it's the issue that the authority was expected to pay for something, and when they've been there to represent, therefore, exactly, so we're saying,
Madam Mayor, please. May I ask that the email exchange between me and Jenny be distributed to councillors so that so they know what transpired. I said I'm not going. First of all, I have time to go. Then she said it's £35 per head. I said no, I'm not going if I'm going to pay from my pocket.
Will you, excuse me, Victor, can I just ask you, you were representing the council?
Yes, the council was
Okay,
invited, yes.
but you shouldn't have had to pay.
So that's what I said. And email went, to and fro. And said the council has accepted to pay for my ticket if I'm still free to go. I said, okay, I've agreed that I'm free that weekend. I'll go and present the council. So if you can share the email that went through so that everybody will know what's happening there.
Okay,
I think for working for the council and not being put on the, accusing of doing something wrong, which I don't understand.
Victor, excuse me, we are agreeing that what you just said is right, that we shouldn't have to, I don't know what the problem, because we're agreed that what you've just said, you shouldn't pay, I will. Okay. You shouldn't pay, but if you're taking a guest, that's what you're saying, aren't you? We should pay. I've always done that. I've never known you could take a guest without paying.
Can we share the email that when we would have, what happened? So that we help us, maybe we come back to it.
You're right. There's no need to come back. We're agreeing with, I don't understand the situation.
Through you, Madam, I did actually share that there's nothing.
No, Michelle, we've discussed it enough. We've had it explained completely. It's not exactly what we said. The mayor doesn't pay, or the deputy mayor will pay what he said, or another representative. We've discussed it, and we don't need to discuss it anymore. I'm sorry. Michelle, please. We've discussed it. If you understand it, don't tell me you don't understand.
I understand that, I just wanted a bit of further clarification on the declaration of interest. I'd never seen that piece of paper before, and I thought it would be good if we could just know exactly what is expected of us when we should complete that, because that seems very important.
Well, it's it has been, not contradicting, but it has been circulated to everybody. But it may have been missed because it's on the back of the gifts and hospitality protocol, and every time GMC approves that, I send that out. I'll send another one. It's on our website. It can be downloaded there. But as soon as a member fills one of those out, I simply photocopy or scan it and put it on the website against that member's interest. It's one here from Councillor Hutchins for attending the Forum of Football Club.
So just to be clear, what we were talking about, that is the sort of thing that would go, if you would beg on behalf of somebody, if you went on behalf of the council would pay 70 quid for the tickets, that's what you should be putting on there.
Remember, I've got something in accordance with that. Yes.
We just don't agree that we don't understand the complication.
It's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. We just got, Mike, you wanted to say, you asked me before, but.
It seems to me the root of the problem is in the instructions for when people request the mayor or substitute to come to their event. So it needs to be made clear on that the the mayor or his or her representative should not be asked to pay a fee to go to that event.
Or couldn't they choose to do so if they wanted to from their allowance? If they wanted to, there's nothing compelling somebody to go. They can always say, no, nobody's going to go.
I think that's what will happen. People won't want to go if they're on the minimum allowance as a councillor, or even a past mayor who is not a member of the council. I know, and on occasion stood in for the mayor.
No,
Not me. I know. And I don't think representing the council, they should be expected to pay to go to anywhere.
But you can always refuse.
And that's what will
I
happen.
usually go to a
I didn't even know, honestly. I've always, anyway, it doesn't matter. Can we move on now, please? Right. Where am I?
It's the accounts, yes, it's the signed minutes, 9. And then when we come on to public questions, just so it's not forgotten, there is a motion that's going to come as well. So probably take that at that stage. But just to, without wishing to guilt everybody, what I will say, if there is any fault in this, I'll take responsibility because I would have had to have approved that minutes. So, but we know what we're doing in the future.
Thank you very much. So 9 on the agenda,
Signed minutes.
signed minutes.
So one member asked that we actually list those ones which are, so it's not just guesswork by members as to which ones are, I think it was 5 questions, so that we asked that we list them. So those are the ones there.
Okay, thank you. What do you mean, you?
Well, and because a few meetings ago we agreed that we wouldn't, to save the rainforests, we wouldn't print out paper copies of all of the minutes. So what we said is we'd alert members to the websites where the minutes are, but some members were confused as to which minutes they were approving, so we've listed them, but they're not attached.
Okay,
So
thank you very much.
just simply.
That's very simple. Okay, thank you. So then that's it on that one, is it? Is that okay? Richard?
Madam Mayor, yes, just before you move into item 10, with your agreement, we'd like to suspend standing orders to take a motion that was being attached to tonight's meeting, which was forwarded to Councillor Strack as the Conservative Group leader and passed on to your members to have a look at. And I believe we're okay to suspend standing orders with the agreement of Council tonight to discuss this motion and take a vote on it.
Okay, you take a vote.
Or suspend it.
On suspending, yeah, on suspending standing order. Okay. Can we take a vote?
It seems unanimous that standing orders can be suspended to consider the motion.
Yes, thank you. Oh, Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With your permission, I'd like to table this motion. For the purposes of the webcast, I'll just read out the text. Elstree Bournemouth Town Council is deeply concerned about the decision of Hartsmere Borough Council to close the Borewood Street Market. We call upon the Borough Council to pause this decision to allow for formal consultation with local residents, which has not yet taken place, and consultation with the Town Council about possible solutions. Post-COVID economic regeneration is a shared key priority for both town and borough. This should begin with serious efforts to reinvigorate and renew our main shopping parade. A modern, vibrant, properly managed and promoted market could be critical to achieving this. Council instructs the town clerk to write to the economic development portfolio holder at the Borough Council, setting out our concerns and seeking urgent meeting to discuss them. We've tabled this motion this evening because I think members on all sides of this chamber were quite shocked that the decision of the Borough Council executive to close the market came seemingly out of the blue without any public consultation. There was consultation with the market holders, but it had until then been understood that there would be a period of public consultation and further opportunity to review the decision. None of that happened. People are aware, obviously, that the market's been through a patchy period, not just because of COVID, but partly because of COVID, but really since 2017. And in that period of time, there's been a scrutiny review undertaken, which brought forward a number of recommendations for renewing, refreshing, and turning the market into a modern, successful market, as many other areas have managed to do. And unfortunately, 80% of those recommendations were never responded to by the executive of the Borough Council. There was also money invested as part of that process into a independent expert consultant report from a company called Quartermass, who have successfully renewed and reinvigorated markets all over the country. And that report concluded that for a relatively small investment, talking 4 figures, changes could be made that would make the market a serious ongoing concern. So, for one of the first acts in this era of post-COVID recovery, with the imperative for economic regeneration, with the high street at the front of it to be closure of the market, this doesn't seem right to us at all. And we feel that the decision should be paused and reviewed anyway. But as a town council that's actually quite good at running things effectively, we should give consideration and be given the time to consider whether or not we might be able to bring something to the table, either as market operators, as an authority, or in partnership with others. But all the motion's asking for this evening is to write to the town council, write to the borough council, expressing our concern, asking for time for the decision to be reviewed, and asking for us to be able to get into discussions with them as to the role we might play in saving the market. I hope that's not contentious or controversial. I feel it's what we should be doing as a town council in the best interest of our town and our town centre.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mark. Does anybody want to say something? Oh, yes, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, you put the proposal, I voted on, and I second that. Thank you.
So so that's, this sort of thing is what I get paid to do from a professional perspective, and I go around the country. I've been literally everywhere in the country and seen nothing, but I've seen lots of markets and shopping centres, and I'm not surprised that the market's being closed. It's terribly managed. There aren't any decent stalls. I know a lot of the stallholders gave up because people aren't shopping in the market, and it is down to very, very poor management and unappealing stores. Towns with good markets, market days will be the busiest trading day for the retail shops in addition to the market. So I'm in favour personally of a well-managed, appealing market in our town. I'm not so sure whether the town council has the professional expertise to manage a market, because that's a speciality thing. But I think that consultation should happen, but I think that from the town council point of view is, I don't know if there's the expertise within this authority to run a market, but as Councillor Newmont says, it doesn't cost a fortune to run a market. You need to buy some stalls which are set up by the market so they're uniform, encourage decent retailers onto the market, and most importantly, publicise this market. So when people come to the market, more stallholders want to come. So I'm in favour of the motion, but I think we have to think carefully about whether we want the town council to take over running the market.
Thank you very much.
Well, the thing is, we really do know that, don't we, Simon? We're not going to go into something that we can't do. We're inquiring, really, I think, but in the meantime, Victor would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I agree with what Councillor Runa said. Having said that, as of today or 2 days ago, there was another publication from the Borough Council. Yeah, talking about consulting the town council and other interested bodies. I think Councillor Vince shared it this afternoon. I read it on Facebook, what you shared on Facebook. Yeah, they mentioned something about consulting and town council and other bodies about the market. So I'll support it, but I think to manage it will be easy for us. If a council like the borough is trying to manage it with the experts and the contractor that they put in place, it will be very difficult for us to manage it. I will support that. We write them for them to look at what they said before in terms of a consultation. But we manage it with the addition of the
Thank you very much.
Victor.
Many apologies. I do understand what Victor was talking about the press release that came out from Heartsmere. So what happened was a few days ago, Heartsmere released a press statement that went out into national news that said to the BBC, that said residents had had a consultation process, and they hadn't. And of course, none of our residents can be hoodwinked into think they've been consulted when they haven't. So I think, I don't know about anybody else, but I was inundated with people saying, why was I missed out this consultation? And seemingly there was no consultation, so they had to put out an amended press release. So the initial press release was either a lie or misleading, I'm not quite sure, or a mistake. But they've now put out an amended one, which, and I've had an email from Hertfordshire today that says that 72 businesses were consulted. Or, but it doesn't say about councillors, it doesn't say about the town council, it doesn't say about residents, you know. So I think it's right that that this motion goes in. I think we must also remember that on that market, there are 2 market stalls that have been there 20 plus years. Now, they were there before COVID, they've gone through the initial recession we've had, you know, and I think we've got to, while we're saying it's taxi and it's this and it's that, we've got to hold our hands up and thank those people that have come week in, week out for the last 20 years. And for a incorrect press release to go out saying that people were consulted, it was overwhelming that they didn't want it. Well, it didn't happen. And so I get that, Cassandra, go on.
What I was going to say is, can we move forward? I know all of this, most people know all of this.
Well,
So what you're doing, Michelle, is going over it again.
Well, the sad thing about it,
So,
the sad thing about it was that the market stalls hadn't even been told they were
Okay,
closing.
but that's in the past, Michelle. We're moving forward. We want to do something about it. What, you can't go back. It's happened, and we need to move forward. And we are moving forward. I need to ask, Pat wanted to speak before, and I didn't, sorry.
I think it's just to say that as I understood it, I mean, some time ago we were consulted by Paul Morris. He had a vision for the town, all the both borough councils, that's a long time ago. They actually kept calling board with Elstree, so they didn't know too much about the town. And he wanted to bring fine dining in, and he wanted to improve the market. And we were to be in discussions with, it didn't go further. But I understand that although we don't have the expertise, neither does Hertfordshire Borough Council, perhaps the borough councillors can tell me, but I do believe that they employed somebody to run the market.
They did, they did.
So that is something that can be looked at. It's an investigation, isn't it? When, where, how, and if the public are in support of it, I think it's a good thing to do.
For the past 5 years, it's been run by the Borough Council's engineering department. Now, I would say that the engineering department are great at putting up scaffolding and doing engineering, but I would suggest that's part of the reason for the issues that Councillor Rutner very expertly set out.
Okay, are we moving forward? Can we agree the motion? Thank you very much. Nick, Andrew, would you like to speak, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Could it please be minuted that the Jubilee week was the most successful week, and that it was very happy that it could be combined with the visits of the Mayor of Offenburg and the Deputy Mayor of Fontanillo Road. So I thought the Beacon lighting was very successful. Estimates of between 200 or 300 people attended. On the way back, complete strangers were approaching me, saying how much they'd enjoyed it, and that it was a very successful community event. And I would like to thank the elected members and the staff and the stewards of the town council for the way they cooperated with the other people who were involved in all the arrangements. Martinelli, with Dan and other members of staff, have prepared a wonderful programme for the two mayors, and they expressed great appreciation for what had been done for them while they were here. And in terms of the party in the park, Councillor Shackett done tremendous work on behalf of Studios Rotary Club and combining that. Everybody who was there thoroughly enjoyed it, even though the weather wasn't totally with us, it didn't rain. And I'd like to mention, amongst all the people who helped on the day, I'd like to mention Andy Grady, who's sitting next to me, who did a tremendous amount of work, both before the day and on it, ably assisted by his wife, Erica, and Sam Coville, the same, assisted by his wife, Heather. So a lot of people came together to make these events a great success. And I think it's something that everybody involved should be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick. Really, I know I had 4 days of unbelievable fun. I've never stopped smiling. Seriously, the whole, yes, and the whole 4 days. It was unbelievable. Honestly, it was wonderful.
Your boogie this week.
And Dan, I need to say, Dan, you did a really, really good job communicating that, please. Yeah. Thank you. Michelle.
Please correct me if I get this wrong, but my understanding is our Jubilee party in the park was initially going to be run by Hertsmere Leisure. And the Elsham Borough Council contacted Hertsmere Leisure, and we understood that they were going to do the running of it. As they do the running of a lot of things in Borehamwood, because they're based in Borehamwood. So when it went back to finalise it, it was quite a shock to find out that they were no longer going to help the Borehamwood one because they'd gone to do the Radlett one and they didn't have time to do both. Whose fault was it?
Let me tell you what we did. We booked it, didn't we, Pat? And we didn't, he said we didn't get back to them soon enough. So, okay, you just have to take it on the chin and do it.
Yeah, I'm taking it on the chin. And what I was going to say is, thank you to the Studio Rotary Club for picking up that day and running with it and making it a success, because it seems there was no one else to do it on that day. So if it hadn't have been for them, it wouldn't have been the success that it was. So thank you, Studio Rotary Club.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I would like to agree with what Nick said. I went to plenty of events over that few days, and it was great actually having a chat and meeting up with people. But one of the things that really drew to my attention was when I went to the street parties, and thank you for attending the Bullhead Road street party, Madam Mayor. Your presence there was a success, and you missed out on the cake tasting, which I had the pleasure of doing, and happy to do that for any other organisation, so feel free to use my skills and my taste buds. But the one thing that really came out of it was how a road like Bullhead Road, for instance, seeing residents from one end to the other coming together into the middle, and people who would pass by each other on the street actually having a conversation, getting to know each other. What's led from this is Jubilee celebration, which is fantastic. Is actually more people will get involved in their local roads, their local groups, and even looking at setting things up to do more smaller events next year. So watch this space. We may see new events kicking up around the town next year, bringing our community even closer together than it already is. So maybe we should look at how we help move forward when it comes to the next financial budget. Thank you, Madam.
Thanks, Richard. And they did say that they want to call it a community day once a year. Their enthusiasm was unbelievable. I have never seen it before, honestly. It was. Yeah.
Right, so moving very swiftly on backwards to the big event, that was fantastic. Now we need your help. I'm here with my different hats on. I'm chair of the Woodcock Committee. I would like to ask our council that we move forward on an asset of community value so that we can protect not only the part that's been taken away from us by Taylor Wimpey, which we do intend to challenge, but also all of it because it's all under threat. And making it an asset of community value is another hurdle that developers have to jump over. And so if I have the support, if we have the support of councillors here, we three of us have to declare an interest because we're on the committee. But hopefully the rest of you will agree that Woodcock Hill as a village green is very important. We have a Melrose Avenue resident sitting right there who's going to have that land snatched away from him. And fenced in. Nick, you will only be able to see it through a fence until Taylor Wimpey get permission to build on it. Is that right? No, it isn't.
I would like to second that motion.
You can't second the motion, you can't second the motion. And just to clear things up, I'm actually doing this to help you three. No, from what I understand, Pat was just acting in her capacity as chairman of the Woodcock Hill Village Green Association, so she wasn't acting as a councillor. But if you wish for this authority to have a vote on putting that forward, I would recommend maybe that councillors who are associated to that maybe declare their personal presidential interest and maybe leave the room or make that decision themselves so that we can have that vote. I'm doing that out of respect and politeness to you.
Happy to do that.
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, can I just say that I suspect that borough councillors, like Jeremy and I, who are on the planning committee, can't really be involved.
It's nothing to do with planning.
Well, it will.
Yeah, we don't have to declare an interest because the asset of community value is decided by the planning portfolio holder in consultation with the head of planning as part of the borough's scheme of delegated authority. So we actually have no say in it, so we don't have an interest.
So, as a Brook Meadow councillor, and I'm not a member of the Alderman, I'm not a member of the Woodcock Hill group, I'm happy to propose a motion, but I am a member of the Green Belt Society, I don't know if I have to declare that makes a difference.
The Green Belt Society doesn't figure in this.
Right. So I'd be happy amending something from the other position.
Right, so,
Shall we go?
Hang on, no, we need to do this right. So yeah, I'm happy to chair it if you want, or one of the others. No, it's fine. It's only going to be for a second, isn't it? But you need to suspend standing orders first. So I'm happy to put that on the table. So can we suspend standing orders?
We move for something else for
But yeah, fine. Yeah, so we get it right.
Madam Mayor, just before we suspend the standing orders, because obviously you've got the knowledge of this, and now you're going to be leaving the room. Can you just so this motion, exactly what is this motion again? Because
It's to make it an asset of community value. Do you forward
it's not a motion.
No, you know what he did with the church now?
All right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's done. We've already done it earlier in the session. So if you want to.
Oh, okay.
Who do you want to leave chair, Madam Mayor? I mean, we make that decision.
Simon, you just said you wanted to, okay?
Sorry about that. That's why.
So, members.
You will come back for us, won't you?
No.
So, members, with your permission, I'm going to propose a motion to be seconded by.
I'd like to second that.
And the motion is to,
Well, I believe simply enough, the motion is simply to seek to register Woodcock Hill Village Green in its entirety as an asset of community value, in the same way as the town council has done so with Alderman Reservoir, with Bearbrook, and Raybrook Practice, and sought to do so with St Andrews. was unsuccessful in that case.
Colleagues, did anyone want to say anything about this? Councillor Newman?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we do this. It's what the asset, the community value process is there for. Some of us have warned that this would be a likely outcome for quite some time. We do need to do what we can to protect the green belt in the area, and it's shocking that the Secretary of State, let's be clear, it is the Secretary of State who took the final decision and endorsed the views of the planning inspector that has done this, and it's we need to do everything we can to mount the fight back. So we're absolutely with our comrades on the other side of this.
Any other comments, Councillor Rowley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we are surprised that the inspector went against what the public wants on that piece of land. So, and it happens to be in my ward also. I think I was very much involved with the meetings and going to inspect the land. So it was a shock to everyone of us. And based on that, I think I fully support the plan council on making it a community of asset of community value. Thank you.
Okay, can we go to vote on this now? All those in favour? I'm just going to call down.
Thank you, sir. The resolution is short.
Last person on the agenda is
Okay, so all I've got left now is to close the meeting. The next meeting of the full council is scheduled for Wednesday, the 7th of September 2022, at 7:30 February. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It was a very good meeting. I know, it's strange, isn't
Oh, thank you, Rita. See you. Well done, Dan. Thank you. That's what I like. Meetings are finished at 3:30. It's very good.
Best kind of meeting. Yeah. Let me just unplug.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, what time for that thing? I forgot. Sorry.